So although I've mentioned that cognitive behavioural therapy takes fewer sessions, that doesn't mean it is a quick fix. It still takes time and effort. If you went along to a cognitive behavioural therapist and you did absolutely nothing, you just listened along and expected the therapist to do everything, and then you went back home to your normal everyday life and you carried on doing the same behaviours, you're going to get the same outcomes you've always had. So it's not like a magic bullet. It's not like somehow this magic technique will transform your life without you doing any work. You have to put in hard work, and that can take time. So it is shorter time than many other forms of therapy, but it is still time you have to invest. So cognitive behavioural therapy works best with people who are self-disciplined, people who are open-minded, because they'll have to challenge their own beliefs. And so if they're not willing to even look at their beliefs and look at the possibility that their beliefs could be wrong, then they will struggle to make the necessary changes. They've got to be willing to take a look at themselves. So although you don't spend all of your time analysing your past and your childhood and things like that, you do have to take a deep look at how you perceive the world and what your patterns are of thinking, of beliefs, and of responding to things. Because you have to put in effort to do behavioural tasks, you need to be prepared to step outside of your comfort zone. Because sometimes you, perhaps, say you lacked confidence, you might be asked to go into a situation where you know you lack confidence and pretend you've got confidence, just to see what happens. And so if you're not willing to go outside your comfort zone, so for some people that'll be too big a step, but for others, hopefully that won't be too big a step. So it's down to the therapist and the client together to find out how far out the comfort zone at any one time someone's willing to go. So if it was OCD, for example, it could be that someone has to, say they check their front door 16 times before they leave the house. To get outside their comfort zone, maybe the first step is to check their front door 15 times and not check it on the 16th time. Instead, just to leave. And then sit with that, sit with the uncertainty and the uncomfortableness, despite the fact that you've checked it 15 times, and so you've only not checked it one time, less than you normally do. It's helpful when the person's a natural problem solver or they like looking at puzzles, because you're sort of treating yourself as a puzzle. You look at yourself and you are trying to solve the problem of what is it that's making me think this way, behave this way, feel this way. What's the connection between the way I think about that issue and the way I think about that issue and the way I think about that issue? What is the underlying pattern? Because normally someone presents with a few different things, but there's a deep belief that's underlying it. So it could be a fear of rejection, for example, and the person doesn't really identify with the idea of fear of rejection just because they've never thought about it. But they talk about maybe struggling to hold down relationships. Maybe they find that they get frustrated in work and end up wanting to leave their job after a couple of years. And then when you look at asking the questions you'll learn on this course, you discover that the final answer they give to all these different situations is around rejection, and almost like they're trying to jump ship before they get pushed. So having someone who's good at doing that, good at analysing things and problem solving, is a real benefit. Having someone who's connected with their feelings and inner experiences. So this is one I struggle with because I am autistic. And so I really, really struggle with connecting with my feelings and my inner experiences. And when I've worked with cognitive behavioural therapists who have been using various techniques with me, some of the answers I've really, really struggled to give an answer to. And I'll normally end up coming up with something that isn't a feeling that I think is a feeling, that I'll tell them. So I'll say, how did you feel in that situation? And I'll say, I felt like and then I'll give something that's not actually a feeling. I felt like they were being annoying or something that's not my feelings at all. So if someone can be in touch with their feelings, connected to their feelings, and have an awareness of their own inner experience, that's a huge benefit to how quickly they'll get successes. And also to be able to be comfortable with analysing and measuring progress. So sometimes progress can be really slow, sometimes it can be huge, and in a very short space of time you make this big leap in progress. But you want someone who doesn't mind, for example, using scaling. So some people, just the fact that it sounds like maths is enough to put them off. But all you're doing is saying, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10 or 0 to 100 or some percentage, where are you now in relation to the success you want? Oh, I'm a 6 or 7 out of 100, so 6 or 7%. Okay, and a few sessions in, where are you now? I'm 83, 84% there now. I'm nearly at the point where I can go the rest of this journey on my own. So you want someone who's comfortable with doing that kind of looking at yourself, analysing yourself, doing comparisons between your current self, your old self, your future self, as you expect to be or perhaps will be, and measuring that progress. So I wouldn't advise that someone turns clients away just because they don't meet all these criteria. It's just that when people do meet these criteria, they're definitely much more likely to have success, going to have quicker success. So someone who isn't self-disciplined might need some support around being self-disciplined before they can even look at addressing their problem. Someone who isn't open-minded may need support around addressing the belief of not being open-minded, and may need support around that so that they can be open-minded enough to take on board other things. So they can be helped, but you might have to look at things in a slightly different way.